Before we begin with the regular part of Kabbalat Shabbat, let's turn to page 13 and start with Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, V'melech Malchei HaMalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, V'melech Malchei HaMalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, V'melech Malchei HaMalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, V'melech Malchei HaMalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we'll begin our journey through the Psalms of the week, turning to page 15. Page 16. Shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai, baruchu shemo, masru miyom leyom yeshuato. Sapru b'goyim kevodo b'kol ha'amim niflotav. Ki gadol Adonai, umul al meyon, norahu, al kol Elohim, kol Elohei ha'amim elilim, va'Adonai shamayim asa, od v'hadar v'efanav, od v'tiferen v'migdasho. Havul Adonai mishpechot amim, havul Adonai kavod v'hoz, havul Adonai kavod shemo. Zeu mincha uvo lechatzotav, shtachau l'Adonai b'chadot kodesh, kilu mipanav kol haaretz. Imru b'goyim Adonai malach, aftikon tevel v'hatimot, yadinamim v'mesharim, yismechu hashamayim v'tagel haaretz. Yiram hayam u'meloh, ya'alo sadai v'kol asher bo. Hazirandenu kol hatzeyar, mipnei Adonai kiva lishpot haaretz, lishpot tevel 17. We'll read in English. God is sovereign, let the world rejoice. God's throne is founded on justice. Though God be clouded from view, divine justice reveals God's presence. God's lightning illumines the earth, fire consumes God's foes, mountains melt like wax before God, the earth trembles. The heavens proclaim God's righteousness, all people behold God's majesty. Shame covers those who worship idols, those who take pride in revering images which must themselves bow low before God. Hearing of your judgments, Adonai, Zion exalts, and the cities of Judah rejoice. You are supreme over all the earth, highly exalted beyond all that is worshipped. Those who love Adonai hate evil. God protects the faithful and saves them from the wicked. Light is stored for the righteous, joy for the honorable. Rejoice in Adonai, you who are righteous. Acclaim the holiness of God's name. Shama v'tismak Zion, v'tagelna b'not Yehuda, leman mishpatecha Adonai, Yat Adonai Elyon, Hakol Haaretz, Me'on Aleita, Al Kol Elohim, Ve'Adonai Sinura, Shomer Nafshot Hasidam, Yad Hashem Yatzilem, Osaru Allah Tzadik, Tzele Simcha, Simchu Tzadikim B'Adonai, Ve'odu Lezeker Kodsho, Mizmor Shir LaAdonai, Shir Chadash, Ki Niflaot Asa, Shir Lo Yamina Ozeroach, Chodia Adonai Yeshuato, Ve'hinei Hagoyim Gilat Tzidkato, Zachar Chazdo ve'emunato, Levet Yisrael ra'u kol atzei haaretz, et Yeshuat Eloheinu, hariu l'Adonai kol haaretz, pitzu ve'ranenu ve'zameru, zameru l'Adonai b'chino, b'china v'kol zemra, בחצוצרות וקול השופר, הריעו לפני המלך אדוני, כי רם הים והו, תבל ויוש והיבה, נהרות ימחף וכף, יחד הרים ירננו לפני אדוני כי בא, וישבות הארץ, ישבות אלו בצדק, ויאמין במישרים, יאללה לה 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 לה, יאללה לה 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 לה, יאללה לה 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 לה, יאללה לה 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 לה, יאללה לה 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 לה, יאללה לה 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 לה, יאללה לה 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 לה, יאללה לה 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 So we're now on page 19. Adonai melech Ani Yosef Taret Adonai b'Tzion Gadol Ramchu al kol ha'amim. Adonai לכם ונקל עלילותם. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו, והשתחוו להר קדשו, כי קדוש Adonai Eloheinu. So if you're able to rise, we turn to page 20. You may be seated at the bottom of the page. Na v'koach v'koach gedulat yemincha yemincha tatitzeru hakaberin atamecha sageveinu toreinu nohuram. Na v'koach v'koach gedulat yemincha yemincha tatitzeru hakaberin atamecha sageveinu toreinu nohuram. Elai lai lai elai lai lai elai lai lai elai lai lai. Now we find ourselves at Lachad Dodi welcoming the Sabbath bride. And since the music I have is doing the first, second, fifth, and last stanza, that's what we're going to do. So it's the first two, the last one on page 21, and then we turn for the Boi V'Shalom to bow and welcome in the Sabbath bride. Lechandati likatala, kanesha banekavela. Lechandati likatala, kanesha banekavela. Lechandati likatala, kanesha banekavela. Lechandati likatala. With me, Shamor v'Zachor v'Nibor echad, Yishmi'anu Elam Yochad, Adonai echad, U'Shemo echad, נקבלה, לחנוני לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לחנוני לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Bottom of the page. התעוררי, התעוררי, איבה אורך קומי אורי, אורי אורי, שיר דמרי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לחנוני לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Turn the page. בואי בשלום עטרת לילה, גם בשמחה עופץ אוכלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לחנוני לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה. One more time. לך דודי לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה, לחנוני לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Maybe seated. I have to say that verse, although it's not one we often sing here, is one that I find very powerful to remind us to stand up, to wake up, to be aware of the blessings around us, to see God, to see the light that seems often hidden in front of us, but to see and to find what is often in front of our face. So the song for Shabbat is on page 23. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. להכיר בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות. אסור עלינו מסכת מימון. צדיק אתה מייפרה כזרונה. עודנון מסרה בשנים ברעננים יהיו להגיד כי אשר אדוני צורי ולא עוולתה בו. We're on the final psalm of Kabbalat Shabbat, page 24. 4 lines 2 lines before the square. Mikolot mahim, mahim rabim, adirim adirim, mishbebriyam. Mikolot mahim, mahim rabim, adirim adirim, mishbebriyam. Adir v'marom Adonai, Adir v'marom Adonai, Adir v'marom Adonai. Edotecha nenu me'ol levatcha kodesh Adonai le'arech yamim. I can't talk over there. That just wouldn't make any sense. So, Pirkei Avot, chapter 4, verse 23. A few brief but very important lessons from Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. He says, Al teraseh et hachaverach bishat ka'aso. When your friend's anger is raging, that's probably not the moment to try to talk sense into them. Or, in his words, don't pacify your colleague when the anger is raging. And how often, this is a great lesson for dealing with children, right? If you try to say, oh, you're screaming and crying, let me talk to you rationally in this moment, it usually goes so well. But if you give them a minute and let them get that energy out and cry and scream for a minute, sometimes, then you can talk to them afterwards. But if you immediately go and you're trying to talk them down right when they're at the peak of that temper tantrum or the peak of that anger, works for children and adults, how much do you actually get through to them? So this is one of those lessons that came all the way back and still reminds. The note from Rabbi Gordon Tucker says, when a person needs a colleague, that's not when you need to be their teacher. Stand there with them, cry with them, scream with them, but don't try to tell them what they need to know in that moment. Because that may be the time to put out your hand, to give a hug. Pedagogy is, in Rabbi Tucker's words, not a substitute for being a mensch. And Rabbi Shimon may be teaching us that as well. And it goes on, a couple other moments of just stop and be with someone for, this is a great chaplaincy Mishnah. V'al tenchamenu b'sha'at shemetu mutal lefanav. When the dead is lying in front of him, don't try to comfort him. This is, I think as one of my teachers, Neil Gilman, would say, you don't do theology at the bedside. When somebody, is in the moment when they're about to lose someone, they're about to go on their own journey into the next life, or someone has just lost someone, then going in and patting them on the back and saying, it was God's will. Their response is usually an expletive. The words I don't usually say on the bima. They tell you to go somewhere else, usually with some emphasis. And I saw something recently, somebody who, when things weren't quite right, they tried to say, this person is, not in their right mind. Why were they not in their right mind? Because their spouse just passed away. They don't need, they might need mental health later on, but it wasn't in that moment. In that moment, they just needed to be acknowledged that they were in pain. And how often in our society today, we don't want to ever acknowledge that people can be in pain. We don't want to acknowledge suffering. So we can say, there's something wrong with you if you're grieving. But there's nothing wrong with you if you're grieving. You're grieving. That's what's right with you. Because that means that you have had love. You've had a soul. You have a soul. If you can be with, have someone, lose someone and not feel anything, that's when you need a little help. Now of course, everybody responds in different ways. Some people are loud. Some people are quiet. And I took a class when I was at the seminary across the street at the Protestant one that was taught by a Jewish psychologist. And he was teaching a class about grief in different religious traditions. And he said the problem with grief is not when you grieve according to the norms of your culture, it's when you don't grieve according to the norms of your culture. So if you're Irish Catholic and you're going to wail and be loud and cry out, and you're in, the other side of the pond, or the other, the in between, you go across to England, and they expect a Victorian stoic mourning, well, then you have a problem because you've got a cross-cultural self and desire, and the desired expectations around you. So perhaps the solution would be simply to accept people's grieving, whatever it is, but that would require us to acknowledge that people have feelings in this world. And it says, "Val tish'al lo b'shat nidaro." If he's trying to make a vow, now remember, usually in Jewish tradition we discourage people from making vows, because what if you can't keep it? And we say that making a vow is a very serious endeavor. But Rabbi Shimon says if somebody is in the position where they're making a vow, even if you think it's ill-conceived, you know what? You should have stopped them before that point. But if they got to that point, you lost your chance. Let them be. They have to live with their choices. And then here's one that I think feels very relevant to many people in this life today. Ve'al tishtadel liroto bishat kalkalato. So don't intrude upon someone in a moment of their disgrace. So somebody got canceled on the internet or shamed in some way. Think about the motivation that you have for being there. If you are being there to support them, kol hakavod, good, maybe they'll let you in the door. But if you're there to be a peeping Tom, if you're there to figure out what's going on and get the whole story, don't go. My philosophy is always show up, right? Almost always show up. So I have to add that almost there. Because maybe there's once in a while a time where somebody needs a little time to process it themselves. And it seems like here we're getting that reminder. So we got a reminder to be with people, not to rush them through their emotional process, but to let them go through their process. To recognize when's the time to open your mouth and when's the time to keep it shut. And then to know when to give somebody a little bit of space. We read it in English as 4 sentences, but in Hebrew, 1 sentence with 4 clauses. That's a whole lot from just one little paragraph. So I hope for all of us, we can know when to be there and when to give a little bit of space. But hopefully, we're there for one another more than anything else. So we'll continue with our evening service. The blessings before Shema can be found on page 28. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro mariv aravim. ומעביר יום ומביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני, המרים והרבים. אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו שקבנו ופקומנו, נשיח בחוקך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם היינו ויארך ימינו ויארך ימינו, ובהם נגע יומם ולילה יומם ולילה. ויבטך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד העולם בהבני לך כל אבך כל נפשך וחיות ונשם. והיה משמעות שפתי אשר אנוכי מצווים עליך. ויאמר אדוני משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת להם, ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בידיהם לדורתם, ונתנו על ציצית על כנף בית התכלת, והיה לכם לציצית וראיתם אותו, וזכרתם מכל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם אשר אתם זונים אחריהם, למען תזכרו ועשיתם מכל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אמן. למנח וזכינו. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליכם. משה מרים משני ישראל, לכדנו שירה בשמחה רבה, ואמרו כולם, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, מלכותך ראו בניך, וקיים לפני משה זה אלינו, ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וכלו מדזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גל ישראל. On the bottom left of page 33, Creator of peace, compassionate God, guide us to a covenant of peace with all your creatures, birds and bees, as well as all humanity, a reflection of your image of compassion and peace. Give us strength to sustain your promised covenants, abolishing blind strife and bloody warfare, so they will no longer devastate the earth, so discord will no longer tear us asunder. Then all that is savage and brutal will vanish, and we shall fear evil no more. Lord, our coming and our going, now toward waking, now toward sleep, always within your tranquil shelter. Beloved are you, sovereign of peace, whose embrace encompasses Jerusalem, the people of Israel, and all humanity. We rise on page 34 for Vishamru, and then we'll take time for our personal prayers on the following pages, the silent Amidah for Shabbat. V'shameru b'nei Yisrael את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדורתם ברית עולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינח. זמנית ולתקתך ופי הגיתה הידתך. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. We turn to page 47. ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, וכל אלוהים היום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישפוט ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהים מלך העולם, בורא בריאה moment of twilight ushering in Shabbat, the world's new face beginning tonight. Come enter this orchard, eat of its fruit, for this is my companion, my friend, my time of quietude. From Yehuda Halevi, page 51, Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon ha'kol, l'tzeit k'runa le'atzer b'reshit, shelo asanu k'vi ha'ratzot ve'lo tzamanu k'mishpechot adama, shelo sam elkeinu kahem ve'gar aleinu k'chol hamonam, anachnu korim u'mishachadim u'modim לפני מלך מלא המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שעונה את השמיים מעושי הארץ, ומשה יקרא בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו וגבי מרומים, ואלוהינו אמן מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, ידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. החושך ההיא וליום לאט תמלוך בכבוד, ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. You may be seated. We remember this week Ann Schwartz-Miller, David Bayarsky, Eleanor Session, Jacob Frank, Linda Rodman-Cohn, Alex Koshakharov, Bessie Cohen, Harry Rothbart, Lawson Cook, Saul R. Stein, Abraham Sterensis, Evan Lewis Kaufman, Helen Silverberg, Jack B. Edelman, Pearl Tuchterman, Virginia Barker Canfield, Barry Kaplan, Francis Grossman Hyman, Joseph Berger, Moishe Sandberg, Samuel Bricker, Abraham Ader, Bella R. Nemiroff, Brona Brenner, Edna Sonkin, Ethel K. Rubin, Fanny Robbins, Isidore Offenberg, Joseph Hochman, Louise Green, Saul Wolf Spilkey, Abraham Kazimov, Francis Stone, Henry Wind, Isaac Blacker, David Vincent Ramanelli, Harry Pollack, and Irving Nevetsky, and in their memory. If you guys want to say it, I'll say Amen. Page 52 if you like, otherwise I got an alternate prayer. Okay. What do you want to do? Okay. Here we go. Nope. Where'd my paper go? Ribono shel olam, Elohei haruchot l'kol basar, Master of the world, God of the spirit of all flesh, it is revealed and known before you that it is our fervent desire to praise your name and to honor and remember our beloved fathers and mothers, sons and daughters, husbands, wives, partners, brothers, sisters, and all those other relatives and friends that we are thinking of tonight. We wish to recite the Kaddish in the company of a minyan. May our presence here today with our community find favor in your eyes and be accepted and received before you as if we had said the Kaddish together. May your name, Adonai, be elevated and sanctified everywhere on earth, and may peace reign in all places at all times. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Praised is the name of the one whose glorious sovereignty is forever and ever. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the one who brings peace above bring peace to all of us. So this is a busy weekend. I'm not even going to give you the announcements for the week. We got enough to do over the next 72 hours. So first of all, welcome to Shabbat. We count, today has been the 48th day of the Omer, so tonight after dark we'll count the very last one of the Omer. And then tomorrow night, at the end of Shabbat, we will gather here at 8 o'clock for Mincha, and Maureen and I are going to do some teaching, and we will have some delicious dairy snacks, delicious dairy desserts. How many more D's can I get in there? And then we will do Mariv and a pseudo Havdalah, because we're going from not Kodesh L'chol, not from the holy to the weekday, but the profane, but from Kodesh L'Kodesh, from holy to holy. We say goodbye to the queen and welcome in the princess, the holiday of Shavuot. And so then we will have our come together in the morning on Sunday and hear Ruth, and we'll hear the Aseret HaDibrot, the Ten Commandments, which is always, a big, exciting space to be in, to see ourselves as receiving Torah in that moment. And then on Monday, we have another opportunity to come together and to give thanks. Sometimes the blessings of the diaspora, we get an extra day of celebration of Yontif, and so we will do Yizkar on that day, on Monday. So we'll close our service tonight with the Yigdal, page 53. Yigdal Elohim chai v'yishtabach, nimsa v'yenen al metzihuto, echad v'yen yachid keyichudo, נעלם וגם אין סוף לאחדותו, אין לו דמות הגוף ואין הגוף לא נערוך אליו קדושתו, קדמון לכל דבר אשר נברא, ראשון וראשית לראשיתו, הינו אדון עולם וכל נוצר, יורה גדולתו מלכותו, שפע נבואתו נתנו, אל ארצי סגולתו ותפארתו. לא קם בישראל כמו שנביא, ומביט את תמונתו, תורת נתן לעמואל, היה נביאו נאמן ביתו. לא היה חליפה אל ולא ימידתו, לעולמים לזולתו, צופה ויודע סתרנו, מביט לסוף דבר בקדמתו. גומל איש חסד כמפעלו, נוצר לרשע רע כרישתו, ישלח כגשמים משיחנו, לפתור מקקת ישועתו. מתים יחייל ברוב חסדו, ברוך עדי עד שם תהילתו. מתים יחייל ברוב חסדו, ברוך עדי עד שם תהילתו. So I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom. It's so nice to see you. And to anybody watching at home, you could have made the minyan. So, l'chaim. Well, we got two more chances this, 2 more chances this Shabbat.